Yo, what's the deal? It's your boy Monsoon it's your boy Monsoon, Staraw, the coolest cat you heard this far. And you are now tuned in to the Shits podcast. So we are either shooting the shit, starting some shit, or as my boy Bubba Ball would say, picking up where shit left off. Yo, I'm currently waiting for my man Bubba Ball to get on this, but he'll be here soon. You know what I'm saying? He'll be here. Don't let me down. Anyway, tonight, y'all, we got a very, very special guest to the podcast. Like I always tell y'all, any guest to the podcast is a special guest. And tonight, it's no different. We have a very special guest to the podcast. Man, very, very, very interesting. I am really dying to hear some of the things that she has to talk about so I can get more in tune with it. Oh, hold on. Look at my man right there. Polyamorous therapist, Heidi Savell.
Oh, I wasn't missing this, baby.
Hey, Heidi, how's it going?
Heidi, hey. Great to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be on.
Ooh,
Thank you.
I just hit the mood up.
I like the mood lighting. I'm feeling a little, I should have cleaned up my background a little bit, but you do make up for me, so I love it.
It's you with two guys. I mean, hey.
He started early. We
don't have some fun.
Okay.
What's your name? I know Monsoon. I didn't catch your name yet.
Bubba Ball.
Bubba Ball. Okay.
One of the dreads you cannot catch in the mall unless it's a
outlet mall, baby. Where the deals live.
Yes. So, Heidi, my first question to you is, where are you from?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah. So over on the West Coast.
Is it rainy over in Portland, or that's Seattle I'm thinking about?
I mean, it's generally rainy, but we're in spring, so we get some really wild weather in spring where it's like yesterday it was hailing, and then it was super sunny, and then it was raining, and then it was hailing again, and then we got a little more sun, which is like how we do spring over here.
Oh,
wow. It's like 3 seasons in one.
Yes.
Kind of like Chicago.
Yeah.
Kind of like Chicago. Yeah. So, how did you become? Well, first of all, can you explain to our audience what a polyamorous relationship is?
Yeah, absolutely. So a polyamorous person is someone who either practices or believes in carrying on multiple loving, romantic, and sometimes sexual relationships with the knowledge and consent of everyone involved. So to be polyamorous doesn't necessarily mean that you are dating multiple people at all times, but it means that you believe in that practice and that it is something that you are open to and potentially practicing in real time.
Okay.
You know why I'm glad it's a word for that, not to cut you off, Monsoon, because a lot of people get cheated on, right? And I feel like if I'm honest enough to tell you that this is probably the person that I would cheat on you with, are you okay with that? If we're going to be serious, like I'm not going to leave them alone. They don't care who I really, you know what I mean? Like if we can come to an understanding, I think that would be a better way of having lasting relationships. But that takes communication. And I'm sure you're going to get into that, of how you can maintain and even start, if that's what you're thinking about, polyamorous relationship.
So I'm glad you said that, Bub, because my first question is, how do most polyamorous relationships begin?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways it starts. So how it started for me was I was already in a relationship when I started exploring polyamory, but that's not the only way to do it. Plenty of people decide when they're single, or sometimes when they're ending a relationship that didn't work, or when they notice a whole pattern of past relationships and start to think, you know what, maybe monogamy isn't really working out for me. Maybe it's time I start considering other pathways. But for folks who are already in a relationship, generally how it starts is one or both members come to the table and are like, hey, can we talk about something other than monogamy? I want to renegotiate our relationship agreements.
Okay. have you seen? I mean, being a therapist, have you seen more 2 women, 1 guy relationships compared to 2 men, 1 woman relationships?
What you're talking about right now is a triad, which is
Okay.
actually a very specific type of polyamory relationship that
Okay.
is a lot more common in the media than in
Okay.
actual real life.
Okay.
So don't actually see a ton of triads. They exist and they're out there, but I think that for the general public and for especially when it comes to pornography, when it comes to media, that's the most common configuration that folks think of when they think of polyamory. But that's actually very expert level polyamory. Being in a triad takes a lot of skill, a lot of work, and it's really for folks generally who have a lot more experience in that realm.
What is the most common?
Good question. I set myself up for that one.
Right.
Yeah. I think probably the most common, at least what I see in my coaching practice and my therapy practice, is folks who are in a dyad. So 2 people who have been in a relationship together, just the 2 of them, deciding that they want to open their relationship, that they're really looking together to explore non-monogamy and to explore polyamory. And generally what I advise people to do when they start is to date separately, not date together. Everyone thinks that it's going to be easier to date together, but it's actually much harder. It's much
harder. I would think it would be much harder. Yeah.
I would think it would be harder anyway.
To date together?
Yeah.
So now that you said that, because that was a little vague. So we're talking percentages. So is it more 2 women, 1 male? Is it more 2 men, one woman, or does it matter? You're saying it like it could be a couple that's been together for, I'm just throwing out terms, loose terms, no requirements. Let's say 3 years, right? That's enough time to get bored, fall in love, get bored again, right? So now, we love each other, but we want to spice it up a little bit. I notice what you watch, you notice what I watch, right? Now the talks come, right? So we're comfortable, we're communicating. Now we can talk about exploring. And you said date separately. What I've always had a problem with, and I've only had the situation approach me twice, was the threesome, right? Where another woman was willing to bring in or accepting to another woman. My thing was, you have to bring the woman, you have to bring her, because if I come to the table with her, it's like, okay, have y'all been messing around before? You know what I mean? It's like all kind of attachments with me coming to the table with something. So I would feel comfortable with her coming to the table with something, as long as it's, what I agree with, and you know what I mean, we can make it happen.
So basically what I get from that is when pitching the idea, does it usually come from a woman's point of view, or does it usually come from a man's point of view to pitch this idea of polyamory?
I don't think that I can't say that it's one or the other. I think I see both a lot. Okay. I think that it really varies. I think most people would think that it's mostly coming from men, and I will say that that's not actually true. Right. I can't say that it's mostly coming from women, but I do think it's a lot more diverse across the gender spectrum than people assume. And then I want to speak to the piece that Bubba, what you were saying, because I think that's such a I want to distinguish what you're talking about, because it's so important. So when you're talking about having a threesome, that is considered non-monogamy. So that fits under the big umbrella term of non-monogamy, open relationship, but that's not specifically polyamory. So polyamory is a specific thing under this wider umbrella of non-monogamy and open relationships. And the way that that's different than polyamory is that's usually engaging, bringing in another person recreationally, right? For fun, for sex, for social connection.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily with the intent of like building a lasting, long-term romantic relationship.
I got what you're saying. Yeah, I got what you're saying. And that's where both parties have to be accepting, right? Both parties have to be willing and accepting. And to be honest with you, I see nothing wrong with poly relationships because, like I said, everybody has been cheated on in any relationship from the time that you were a teenager, you know, young adults, mid-20s, even in your 30s, you know. So it's something within you that you have to come within and say, okay, why did this happen? Most people don't understand why they got cheated on. And if they do get an answer why they got cheated on, will they accept it? You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you know, and then sometimes you got cheated on because you just was boring, or you know what I mean? So will you accept the fact that you're a boring person to this one particular person? You might not be boring to 25 other people.
So when you started, when you started to mention the whole thing of being cheated on in a monogamous relationship,
yeah,
like how does that look different in a polyamorous relationship, or is that even possible?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. Cheating is possible in polyamory, and so what cheating looks like in polyamory is like, let's say that there are relationship agreements, right? And each relationship negotiates their own agreements. There's not a set one, which is really different from monogamy, because I think unfortunately what happens in monogamy is we just make a lot of assumptions.
Right.
What's not cheating? Is flirting okay or not okay? Is having friends of the same gender okay or not okay? Like all these assumptions get made and people don't talk about it. And so a lot of misunderstandings happen. Right. And so one of the really cool things about polyamory is like, there's no assumptions, you know?
Exactly. I like that. You can really be who you are.
So elaborate on that. How has no assumptions though?
Say that again.
Elaborate on how there are no assumptions though.
Okay, so no assumptions, meaning that you don't come in saying like, well, we're not going to sleep with other people. We're not allowed to flirt with the other people. We're going to spend this much time together. All of it's open for negotiation. So it might be like, all right, like we want to, oh, here's a great example. So there's a thing that exists in monogamy that people in polyamory call the relationship escalator. And so it's the idea that there is this like blueprint set up by dominant culture about how every relationship should go. And the idea, according to this, is like you start dating, you have sex, you fall in love, you move in together, you get married, you have kids, and like you're supposed to do it on a certain timeline in a specific order. Right. And if you do it in a different way, somehow that's sketchy or wrong, or you're not mature, or there's something wrong with you.
Well, you know, nowadays that sex could come first before the dating. You know that, right?
Right. Yes. You could, those two you can swap. Those two are the negotiable ones. But everything else kind of, it's supposed to happen in this order. And so when you step outside of that in polyamory, it's like, maybe you don't want to get on the escalator, or maybe you already rode the whole escalator with someone and now you're falling in love with someone new.
While you're still taking the stairs. Now you're taking the stairs.
Or you take the stairs. Exactly. Exactly.
So, let me ask you this question. When did your thought process about monogamy start to change?
Yeah. So for me, it was right after I got married.
Me too.
Okay.
So, I was like, in all seriousness,
is this like, fucking it?
Well, so when we were getting ready to get married, we had a lot of like talks about our relationship and what it meant. And, you know, in those talks, I think what we both realized was that like monogamy wasn't actually that important to either of us. Like love was really important.
Right.
Commitment was really important. Yeah. You know, building a life together was really important, but monogamy didn't really show up as something that was super important to us. So we started to really think about, what does that mean? What does it look like to, you know, do love and commitment and building a life together but not do monogamy. And so we looked at the different options. And honestly, we started with more what Bubba was talking about, where it was more like an open scenario. But it wasn't polyamorous. So we would like go to swingers parties or sex clubs.
I knew it. That was my next question. You fucked up my next question. Go ahead.
Sorry, I spoiled it for you.
So was that the first? Was that like the first thing to like pop the cherry for the exploration stage, like swingers parties? Okay,
it sure was. It sure was. Yep. Okay. And it was like fun and novel and exciting. But for me, I didn't actually dig it that much.
Okay. Why? Let's go.
Because what I realized about myself is in order to really be like super present and lean into like pleasure and presence, I need to have an emotional connection.
Okay.
It's just how my brain works. It's how my brain and body are connected.
You're not all physically driven. Okay, I feel you.
And it's not like that for everyone. Plenty of people, really can do the sex piece without the emotion piece. But for me, I found that it just wasn't that satisfying. It fell a little flat. And so I started then thinking about like, all right, well, what if we expanded this beyond just sex? What if we started thinking about actually dating people separately and like developing emotional connections with people and falling in love with people and like having romance with other folks?
Right. So,
I got another question. Go
ahead, Bub. Go ahead.
Now, when you say that, what state is your relationship in? Is your relationship, well, of course, it has to be healthy in order for you to be able to explore these options. Like you said, you already talked. So in my level of understanding with relationships, because I've been married and I'm now divorced, right? So I know
I'm in that club too.
No, I know the level that you're talking about, and that is a supreme level and committed level of communication.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you said, to be able to talk and communicate with someone and say, well, not so much that this is not working, like you said, because to both of you, this is where you guys kind of have like not so much a common interest, but it doesn't mean that much. You know what I mean? So, and I'm at that age range, like I told somebody, it becomes a time in your life where you have to really look at life, right? And I look at women, a lot of times women peak sexually later than men. You understand what I'm saying? So
unfortunately, go ahead though.
Unfortunately, you know what I mean? So for you our testosterone kind of drops, you know what I mean? Viagra, the
honey pack.
Honey packs.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, my favorite. The honey pack is natural. But you got all these pills, you got commercials, you got all these different things to try to keep the male, you know what I mean, libido and everything else up with the female. And a lot of times women might want to explore things, but they don't know how to maybe communicate that. Or if they do communicate it, it's looked at as unfaithfulness. You know what I'm saying? So people choose partners a lot of times without that being in mind. Now, if you know that you might want to go to a swingers party, right? Your husband or boyfriend might be hesitant. See, this is the thing. A lot of people do things to please their mate. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to be past that phase of not knowing who this person is. That's the key. You have to know who you're dealing with.
With that being said, Heidi, you spoke earlier about not with things being more than just sexual, right? Mm-hmm. So when you talk about I thought about the whole concept of love languages, different love languages. So how challenging is it for you to be able to meet or be able to communicate with more than one person, different love languages?
Woo! Heavy. Yeah. That's heavy.
Well, I mean, I think that it is challenging. And I think that's one of the really cool things about, maintaining multiple relationships at the same time is that you can really play to your strengths with different folks. Mm-hmm. And, like with love languages, with everyone you date, I mean, think about all the different partners you each have had. Like everyone has their unique set of.
I only have one. And we're going to put that on record right now.
Forever.
I'm
okay. Wow.
But,
I'm
no,
going Frank the Tank. Frank.
no, I'm trying to get brownie points to my wife. That's what it is.
All right. Gotcha. I got you.
We're going.
All right. So yeah, I think that each person is so unique. And so it's like learning each new person and learning like, what does this person need? How do they like to communicate? What are the ways, like how much contact do they want? Right. Like I've dated some folks who are like, they want to be texting all day. And then I dated other folks who are like, yeah, we'll just talk when we connect. We don't need to text. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that the point I would make from like that question you asked is really that it's about meeting each person where they are and really figuring out each person's unique needs and wants and figuring out if that's compatible with you and compatible with what you have to give. Because like for me, I've been in a relationship for 7 years and I date other people too, but I have like a lot of established routines because of that existing relationship. And so I don't have as much availability for someone new that I might meet and fall in love with as I would if I were single. And so that's something, you know, I talk to when I meet folks. It's like, hey, what are you looking for? Here's what kind of availability I have. Does that work for you?
Woo! Those are, I think, points that need to be established early in the relationship.
Yeah.
So how would you communicate that to the person that you're with if you come across someone else? Like what's that? How would the conversation go?
Like with my established partner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we talk about it all the time. So like, you know, he more recently than I did, someone who we both knew from, you know, the community had reached out to him and been like, hey, are you open to dating? And he told me, he's like, oh, hey, guess who looked me up? I think she wants to go on a date with me. And for me, because this is just like our understanding, I was like, oh, hell yeah. Are you going to go on a date with her? Are you into it? Like, what's the plan?
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Because like, you know, I know what we have and I know that we're strong. And like, if going out on a new date with someone and like, you know, putting on a new outfit and like, I like to help him pick his outfit. That's fun. Woo! But you know, like if that makes him happy, if that lights him up,
super dope.
Then I want to support him. I want him to do the things that light him up. Just like he plays music. And if going out and practicing with his band lights him up, I want him to do that. And the same thing with like making a sparky new connection with someone new.
That's dope.
Dope.
I commend you for your level of security. Also, your partner too for his level of security. It's like, how long did it take you guys to build that up?
There we go.
A long time. A long time. I mean, we were so this is what I tell the people when I do coaching. When I tell people who I work with is like the first thing you have to do is establish your why. What are your values? What are the reasons why you want to do this? Because it's going to be fucking hard. It's going to get hard. It's going to be
literally. Where though? Yeah. I'm sorry. No pun intended.
That too. But you know, there are going to be times where it's painful and hard, and you're going to be so uncomfortable. And so you've got to know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
What is it about what you believe about love? What you believe about the potential for relationships? What you believe about like community and communal resources and all of those things? What are your foundational values around this? Because you got to remember why you're doing this when things get hard, because otherwise it's going to be like, you know what? This is way too fucking hard. I give up.
Yeah. Because it seemed like even because I mean, like I'm on the outside looking in. It just seems like the physical portion of it would be the least difficult part of it. It's more the emotional portion of it when, I mean, like to be with someone and you love that person. And then you have to deal with that person telling you that they love someone else too. Yeah. I mean, like, but it's not to say that they can't love you as well, but it's like, but you have to be able to deal with they actually love someone else too. So yeah.
And so that's like, I love talking about this. So that's the piece that I think I work with the folks I coach. We work a ton on this. It's like this idea of like monogamy myths. which isn't to say that monogamy is a myth. Monogamy is a perfectly valid choice that lots of people make. But I think that the way that we are taught monogamy, we are raised to believe that that is the only option, that anything else is problematic or pathological or like deviant. And that if you're really mature, if you're really emotionally like, you know, evolved, that you can do a monogamous relationship, and that's what everyone should want, and that's what everyone should eventually settle for. And I think that when we break that down, we start to really deconstruct some of these messages that we're taught, like that you can only love one person at a time.
Right.
Why is that? Why? Where did that belief even come from? I mean, it's not true with friends. It's not true with like people who have children. You know, love is expansive. You can love lots of people. So why is it when it comes to romance, we've made this rule that there can only be one at a time?
And like you say, it's not realistic. Like the actual realistic part of life is that, like you say, you might meet somebody that you fall in love with off of sight, you know, and them the same. But love is a period. It's a, you know what I mean? I think it's a time frame in everybody's life. You fall in love and out of love. I don't think you can stay in love with one person. You're going to fall out of love with that person because we get comfortable.
Well, I think that, you know, monogamy is a choice that people make. And so maybe people do fall in and out of love throughout a monogamous relationship. And so, but I think like monogamy is a choice. It's a commitment. So it's not saying like, I'm never going to be attracted to other people, because that's that's another myth. You're still attracted to other people even once you fall in love.
As men, we just don't want to know. That's what it is.
But it is saying I'm going, like, because we've chosen a monogamous agreement, I am going to choose to stay like monogamous with you, even though I know that I might crush on other people. I might have sparky love feelings for other people. I might feel really strong attraction to other people. I am making the choice to maintain a monogamous relationship.
I think most social media relationships, most people that you see on social media, it's so flirty now that people are like low key flirting with the poly deal, but I don't think they're really understanding and open to it. In my opinion, I think it's all gains and nothing to lose. You know, you two both have to have a level of understanding each other. You know what I mean? And like I said, commitment to each other, that nothing we do will, you know, because what you're doing is actually making you happy. You know, so you're allowing your mate to be happy if that includes somebody outside of you. You know what I'm saying? And that takes a lot of maturity.
I mean, it takes a lot of work, because we have to like untrain our brains, right? Like everything about like movies and music and like everything in pop culture and everything that like generationally gets passed down is like, this is how you do it. You love one person, and if you know there's more than one person, then the person who cheated is bad. They didn't really love the person. They're, you know, they're a piece of shit. And there's never any like talk about, well, what other choices, like maybe there are other options, or why did that happen, or is that realistic? And so when you make the choice to do polyamory, you have to unlearn that. You have to unlearn the idea that if my partner loves someone else, that means they love me less. You have to unlearn the idea that love is a zero-sum game, and that there's only so much to go around. And if someone else is getting it, then I'm losing out.
And like I said, me speaking from the outside in, it just seems like that would be the very hard part of, like you said, the person who loves me loves someone else, so that it makes me think like you love me less. You know what I'm saying? I think that that is a very difficult way to have to like retrain your brain, because like you said, since from zero to now, that's what we've been taught. You know what I'm saying? And it also makes me think about this. Like, in your opinion, what is the role of the church in a polyamorous relationship compared to a monogamous relationship? What's the bigger difference?
I don't think it is a role.
I think it depends on the folks. I mean, I know I'm personally Jewish, so probably not someone to speak to the role of the church. But I think there's plenty of ways that spirituality shows up in polyamorous relationships. And sometimes it's through some organized role, and sometimes it's more through like a more organic form that's not as structured.
Right.
But there are lots of folks who are polyamorous who do have like strong spiritual beliefs. And I think that the parts of the church that people have to kind of divest from in order to engage in polyamory are the parts about like, you know, the man is the like head of the household and there can only be one man and one woman, and really stepping away from those pieces, which doesn't mean stepping away from the church entirely, but stepping away from some of those messages that for some folks are actually really harmful.
Right. So you spoke about the household as well. Can you tell us some of the financial benefits to being in a polyamorous relationship?
Well, I think it depends on how people do it. But for a lot of folks, one of the benefits is like sharing resources. So I don't have kids, but for a lot of my peers who do have kids, they get to pool resources. You know, the parents both have other partners who have relationships with the kids. So the kids get more adult role models, more people who are there to do childcare and to help when someone gets sick and to take them to school and to go to conferences. Like, because, you know, most people, everyone works. So it's hard to find enough adults to do all that shit. And so the more adults you have, the more support there is for those kids and the more just resources and labor folks can share.
That's a very good point. Yeah. That's a very good point. So you also talked about falling in love and sometimes the feelings change. So like what's one of the biggest differences with the breakup as far as a polyamorous relationship? Because you can break up with one person, but you still have your, I guess you want to call it the main partner. I don't know. What would you label it?
Okay, so there's different kinds of polyamory. There's a kind of polyamory called hierarchical polyamory where there's a hierarchy. Okay. And in that case, you do have one main partner. You have a primary partner or an anchor partner. Okay. And then you have other partners who are kind of on the side or like secondary partners. Okay. And then there's non-hierarchical polyamory where it's like you don't have a main partner. You've just got a lot of different folks who, depending on availability, resources, circumstances, you might spend more or less time with. Okay. And then there's
associates.
Yeah, there you go. And then there's
okay.
Well, and then there's something called solo polyamory, which is the idea that you're kind of your own main partner, and then kind of everyone else is more like people that you love and are committed to, but you kind of put yourself first and prioritize your needs among relationship needs.
It seems like that would be the best option right there. I mean, because you got to think about yourself first.
Well, and it also just kind of depends too on like logistics. So for some folks who have young kids, they may kind of be mostly just, you know, each other's primary and doing hierarchy because they don't have the time to even invest and build those other relationships. Mm-hmm. But other folks, you know, build these built out communities where they may live with multiple partners and everyone kind of helps with the child rearing. So it totally depends on what style you have in terms of like what relationship breakups look like. But breakups are complicated because it's like, I mean, starting relationships and breaking up are different than in monogamy because you're starting a new relationship while you're already in relationships. And you might be ending a relationship and doing some really deep grieving while you're still in relationships with other people.
Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about because I mean, and maybe I'm not just at that point yet because I just kind of feel like I don't want you to come home and complain to me how you sad because you broke up with another motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was the other person in a relationship. Yeah. So I guess, but then that's another level of
controlling.
Well, I think that's like part of that is boundaries, you know, like maybe for some folks, it's like, I can't be there for you when you go through your breakup because I don't want to spend the emotional labor to process that with you when you break up with someone. And someone else may be like, come here, let me hold you. Tell me about what a jerk he was. Like, I got you. We're good. You know, like every relationship is different and everyone gets to negotiate what works best for them.
Yeah. That is like super secure. Like that's super secure.
That's called adulting, my friends. we're going to label this adulting 101.
Okay.
Well, so here's the thing though, like it's not to say, I mean, this is like a big misconception. This isn't to say that people who are polyamorous don't get jealous, because we do. We're humans. We totally still get jealous.
Yeah.
We get jealous, we struggle, we feel left out. Like all those things still happen. The difference is when I get jealous, I don't blame it on my partner and tell him he needs to do something different. I own my feelings and I'm like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. I need to think about what I need or how I'm going to take care of myself, or if I'm going to make a request of you or not.
Wow. Wow. I mean, like that's
freedom. That's relationship freedom 101. Relationship freedom.
I think it's like 501. I don't think it's 101. That's that's like grad school level stuff. That's not the intro level, you know. It's hard. It's hard to do.
It's like, okay, so Bub, you labeled it relationship freedom. To me though, it kind of feels like it's more of a commitment. It's kind of like less freedom if you think about it though. You see what I'm saying? Because
I think it's less freedom.
Because now then correct me if I'm wrong, Heidi. It's like now you're being committed to not just one relationship, you're committed to a lot of relationships. So
just one. Just another one outside of the one that, see, I look at it as I can't lose this person, right?
What?
So if I communicate to her that I'm someone else, right? And she says, okay, I'm fine with that. Can I be attracted to someone else? And you say, yeah, we're fine with that, right? So now I'm not saying it as, or I'm not looking at it as I have multiple people, because I think that it's not enough hours in a day for you to be committed to two people unless you're openly and honest with both of them. You know what I'm saying? It's no way that you can balance that act out for a long period of time without getting caught.
Well, I would say a couple things to that. One is there's no assumption that you're going to give everyone equal amounts of time. That's something that you negotiate with each person, you know? So you're not necessarily giving everyone equal amounts of time. And the other thing I would say is, like, in polyamory, you can lose people. There's no rule saying that you get to be with people forever. Like, people still leave. People still break up.
One more good question. Does it work better when all parties live together, or does it work better when parties live separately?
I mean, I think that completely depends on
right. That's your opinion.
I think it can work when people live together, but I think it's so much more complicated. And not everyone who's dating can live together, because like people might be meeting new people all the time. And it's like, you know, you can't just like bring a new person. Okay, we'll build another bedroom. Come on in. We'll make room for you too. But to speak to the thing that Monsoon was saying, like, I think it's more commitment and more freedom. I think it's both, because you're right. You're right that it is more commitment. It's absolutely more commitment, because you are committing to the kind of like vulnerability, raw emotional honesty, and like honesty with the other person and yourself, with everyone you're involved with. But also you have a lot of freedom because there's a lot of expansion on what's possible.
Okay.
Right. So you said you brought up raw emotional honesty.
Did I say that?
Say it again.
I said, did I say that?
You said raw. You did say raw emotional honesty, right?
That sounds very intense. I think I did say that. Yeah.
I could have sworn it's what you said.
I did.
It just makes me think about how difficult is it to hear someone say to you that they enjoy spending more time with another person, or if to say to you another person makes them feel, just say, even if they say another person makes them feel better sexually, but they're saying this to you in order to get you at that same point. Like, how challenging is that to hear that and be able to either, I guess, step your game up or say it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
That's not usually the way the communication happens, because it's not about comparison. It's generally not about comparison. It's not like, hey, I'm more sexually satisfied with this other person than I am with you. But it might be like, hey, this other person has a more dominant energy. And when I'm with them, I really dig that. And when I'm with you, we have this really like tender energy. And I really like that. And sometimes I like different things.
Right.
It's usually only about comparison in the person's mind who's afraid, you know?
Oh, okay.
Now we're talking about something. Yeah.
The comparison is usually the person who's like, I'm afraid that they're comparing, or I'm afraid that they like the other person more than me. But when you're actually in it, it doesn't really work that way. It may be like when I dated someone a few years ago, and who was a lot younger than me, totally different from my partner. And this person liked to go to shows, was like kind of wild, drank more, and was like, had this like very like young, vibrant energy. And it brought out a different part of me when I was with them. Yeah. And I really like loved that. But I didn't like it better than I liked being with the partner I already had. It was just like a totally different thing. And it brought out a different side of me. Yeah. And then I also really loved being with my partner, where we had this more like mature, stable thing going on, where, you know, it felt very like familiar and comfortable and like satisfying, but it was just totally different. It wasn't like, oh, I wish you'd be more like that. It was like, I don't need you to be like that. I get that with this other person. And then I can come to you and like get this other thing that you and I have.
Talk about having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah. With a lot of hard work. But if you do the hard work, then
you got to do the work. No, I say this all the time. No relationship is easy. There's no relationship that anybody can say statistically is better than either. The only relationship that is the best relationship, I feel, is when both parties can be open and honest with each other.
Yeah. But to answer your question a little more in depth, Monsoon, it's like sometimes sometimes people want to spend more time with one partner than another, right? Yeah. It may be like, hey, you know, I met this new person and I know I was only seeing them once a week, but now I want to see them like 3 times a week. And that means that I might have a little less time for you. Like, that happens. It totally happens. And because like there's the freedom for flexibility, it's scary. It's amazing to be on the receiving end of that, but it is very scary to be on the end where it's like everything's uncertain, which I will add, everything is also uncertain in monogamy.
That is true.
But we put on these blinders and pretend like, oh, well, we're married, so nothing will ever happen.
Right.
I look at it as at least you know, and knowing is half the battle.
And, you know, accepting that uncertainty to a certain degree.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's like,
that's the reality of life, though, that people run from. Don't you agree? Like, Heidi, like the reality of life is that you can fall in love with other people, but I still love you. You know what I mean? Like, people don't understand that. They get it later on in life, but I like you said earlier, you said everybody is just not cut out for it.
And I mean, one of the phrases, even though you didn't remember saying it, I remember you saying it, but it was the raw emotional honesty. You know what I'm saying? Like that really stood out because just the term itself seems very like intense, you know.
Raw honesty,
Go ahead, you want to say something?
Well, so what I think I meant by that, I was just teasing you. I totally remembered saying that. I was just like, whoa, I didn't say that, did I? I wouldn't have said that, but I do remember saying it. But what I kind of mean by that is like, it's really hard to say to someone like, hey, I met this new person and now I want to spend more time with them. Right. Like, that can be really hard. And so part of what I mean when I say raw emotional honesty is saying something as kindly and as gently as possible, but knowing that truth may hurt the other person. Right. and that even though it may hurt them, it's still within the relationship agreements that you two have set.
Right.
You know? So like, you know, if my partner says they've had sex with someone new that they've been dating, that might hurt at first to hear. There might be times where that hurt. Like it feels like a punch to the gut sometimes where I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah. And it's like,
about the D.
but it's like about how do I ride out that feeling and sit with it instead of lashing out or getting angry at my partner or being like, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He can do that. That's the agreement we made.
Right.
It's like sitting with the, okay, that's really fucking hard to hear. I'm glad that happened. I don't want to know any more about it right now. Thank you for telling me, but like I'm having some big feelings about it and I need to go sit with those.
Right.
So that was going to be one of my questions too. Like, how do you,
or do you?
Well, at first I was about to say, how do you avoid the jealousy issues? But you said, I don't think there's any way to avoid them. So I guess I have to modify the question, which is, how do you really, what's the best way to deal with them? You know what I'm saying? To deal with those jealousy issues.
Yes, I love this question. I'm going to try to keep my answer short because I could talk for like a long time answering this question. Right. So one of the things that I offer to folks is I have a free 5-day mini course on unpacking jealousy. And this course answers that exact question. So the way I see it is that jealousy has 3 different layers to it. And the best way to handle it is to look at all 3 layers. So the first layer is our physical response. So like our nervous system gets activated. I said that I felt like I got punched in the gut.
That's I felt the way before.
What's that? Or, yeah.
I felt the way before, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that when you see the other person that they had sex with, or it doesn't matter if you see the person?
Either way. I mean, I've either seen them or I'm imagining. But like that physical feeling, that's the first thing that we have to address when this happens, because when we have that physical feeling, it tends to like override all of our better judgment. I'm sure you both have been in this situation before where you're super angry or you're super jealous, and then your critical thinking goes out the window and you either do or say things that you later regret.
Yeah.
That's because our nervous system is in override. So the very first thing we have to do is like, stop, don't say anything to anyone else, take a break and like actually do some deep breathing, do some exercise, take a walk, talk to someone else and like regulate, get our nervous system back online. Because until we do that, anything else we do is probably going to be regrettable. It's probably going to be a not very good decision. So that's the first layer. And then the second layer is looking at what are the feelings I'm actually having and like breaking it down really simple. So like not just jealousy, but like what is jealousy really? So maybe it's I feel really hurt, or I feel sad, or I feel rejected, or I feel like left out. So being able to like break it down to those more basic feelings, because from there we can kind of say like, it's easier to figure out what we need. Because if it's just jealousy, it's like, well, I can't tell them to stop doing that because that's within our agreements. True. But if I know I feel hurt, it might be like, hey, what I could really use is some reassurance right now that you still love me and that you still think I'm attractive and that you're still interested in having sex with me. You know, so that helps clarify that. And then the third level is being able to think about like the way we're thinking about things, because our thoughts usually can totally run away with us. So have you ever heard the phrase, don't believe everything you think? Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comes in really handy here, because you can start to, you know, I might think like, oh, well, he's never going to want to have sex with me again, or he likes her so much better. He probably doesn't even think I'm hot, or she probably has better boobs than me, or whatever the thought is, right?
The what if, right?
The what ifs, exactly. And the crazy thing is that our brains, if we start telling ourselves that, our brains don't know the difference between the what if and reality. And so they respond to the what ifs as if they're actually true.
Yeah.
And so that kicks up that whole nervous system response all over again. And it can turn into this big cycle. So by breaking down those 3 levels and looking at each of them individually, it can really help us to like manage the jealousy so it doesn't get the better of us and lead us to do and say things that we regret. And I've been there. I've done that.
I have to.
I've done that. I've done that.
All three of us.
Totally. I think most people have.
So we're not gonna hold you. I got like 2 more questions though, and I guess it's opinions. You know, do you think Will and Jada are in a polyamorous relationship?
I think they're in an open relationship. I don't know if it's polyamorous or not, but I definitely think they're in an open relationship.
Okay.
I think if I had to guess, I would guess it's probably polyamorous. So I think that they probably do have emotional and romantic connections with other people.
Okay.
But Chris Rock is definitely not one of those people, right?
Probably not. If he was, he's not now.
And my other question is
B.O.B.
My other question is what can monogamous people learn from polyamorous relationships?
Ooh, that's such a good one.
Ooh, communication. I'm gonna start off with communication.
Yeah. Well, I think to circle back to jealousy, I think learning that just because you're jealous doesn't mean that your partner's doing anything wrong. And so before you accuse them of anything, really take a look at what's going on for you. And is there something that your partner's doing wrong? Or is this an insecurity on your part that you can maybe work on yourself?
Right.
Okay.
So that's one. I think another one is going back to another thing we said, not making assumptions. So if you are going to enter into a monogamous agreement with someone, be really explicit about it. So, okay, we've decided we're going to be exclusive. What does that mean for us? Am I allowed to be friends with my exes? Am I allowed to have friends of the same gender as you? Am I allowed to flirt with people? Is that considered cheating? Like being really clear about that. Any answer is okay, but being really clear about like, what do we consider monogamy? Because people make a lot of assumptions and people have a lot of different opinions about what monogamy actually even means. So I think getting that clear in the beginning is really helpful.
Okay. We got this little game that we have on the show, and hopefully you can participate in it. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens.
Okay. So the name of the game is called First of All. Basically, first thing come to mind, there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers whatsoever. You got 30 seconds, okay?
Oh my God, I'm going to be so bad at this game. Let's do it.
No, you're not. That's bullshit. No, you're not. First thing comes to mind. It's easy. It's real easy to do.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Quickest way to get hired.
Ooh, show my boobs. Is that the wrong answer? No.
Quickest way to get fired.
Fired. Show my boobs.
Quickest way to get famous.
Release a sex tape.
There you go. Quickest way to steal from Target.
Make a distraction in a different aisle.
Quickest way to get famous.
Wait, we already did this one, didn't we? Release a sex tape.
Quickest way to get blocked on Facebook.
Ooh, put a sex tape on there.
That'll get you blocked or get you more followers.
Yes, both. It's a win-win.
There you go. Heidi, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for, just for the conversation. It really opened my eyes to some newer things and just some stuff that I really just had to think about. And like I said, I really do commend you for your level of security, because I think that it takes a lot. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot, and just to be able to have those intense conversations with someone that you love, who's telling you that they have feelings for someone else, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have less feelings for you. I think that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
this was so much fun. I really appreciate both of you, Bubba and Monsoon. I really love doing this. This was an awesome conversation. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
Definitely my pleasure. I definitely want to end with this note. what I got out of it was you got to have a higher level of communication in a relationship to even obtain the level of maturity to maintain the thought of bringing somebody else into what you guys got going on. So thanks for breaking it down and helping everybody get a better understanding for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I
you're so welcome.
And I think another thing for me was one of my biggest misconceptions about it was it's bigger. I was about to say it's bigger than sex, but it's more than sex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's more than sex. And I think when people start to really think about that, I think that's the work. That's the work part of it, because, you know, I mean, once the sex is over with, they still laying there, and you got to deal with the ass. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right.
Thank you very much once again. I mean, anything you want to let the people know before we wrap up?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is if you want to sign up for that course the mini course I talked about, it's totally free. You can find it at shelovesradically.com. You can sign up for it. It's just like a 5 email set, and you can learn more about me there too.
What is it again?
It's shelovesradically.com.
Okay.
And on Instagram, I'm at shelovesradically.
Okay.
Is that right?
That's it. You got it.
There it is. Well, once again, thank you very much, Heidi. Have an awesome night. Thank you so much for your time.
You too. This was so fun.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Have a good one. Let's go turn up, my nigga. You ready?
Yes, sir.
You with the shits? Is you with the shits? Because I'm with the shits.
Hey, yo. Hey, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Shits Podcast, man. Hey, yo. I hope y'all learned something, because we learned something. You know what I'm saying? A lot of y'all motherfuckers out there, y'all.
Hey, we got the really glue. Come say something to the people.
Some of y'all
closing it out.
Some of y'all in polyamorous relationships, you don't even know about it.
The camera, man.
Yo, what up? Like we always tell y'all, man. Hey, yo, check it out. Make fans, not followers. Followers will get you clout. Fans will get you work. Goddamn it. Hey, yo, y'all can check us out. We on our way down to Sub 2 tonight. We turning up. My man Vel General performing. I'm performing tonight. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get in there. My man, it's a Shit Podcast, man. Y'all get in tune with us. Y'all can find us on Apple. Y'all can find us on Spotify. Y'all can find us on iHeartRadio. Check out.
You about to find us in the streets.
Hey, y'all make sure y'all check us out every Thursday on the Shits Radio, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. My radio Chicago on the Sport District Radio Network.
Music too.
It is more than radio. We play everything. You know what I'm saying?
Music too.
Dope. Oh yeah, dope music shits at gmail.com. Send those MP3s in. We play everything, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So catch us in these streets, y'all, and we are out of here. Love. Thank you, Chicago, for all the support. Thank you for anybody that's checked us out. We love y'all. We out of here.
Gone.
It's the shits.
God, bye.
That's the wrong one.